Hey guys, this is Gamer Kyle. Welcome to another Pokemon trading card game discussion video. Just before we get started here, if my voice ends up breaking a little bit, I don't know why my throat has been really hoarse the last couple of days, so this is like the 6th or 7th time I tried to record this. Every other time it sounded like crap, so hopefully this is a little bit better. I've warmed up a bit now, I suppose. And also, we haven't abandoned our series or anything. My computer decided that its thermal paste was going to just not work anymore, and so where I am in the world, we kind of have to get it delivered, and that took like a week, so we had to take last week off so my computer didn't explode. And, well, probably wouldn't have exploded, but, you know, it's a problem. So, yeah, we're still going to be doing stuff. Legendary Collection is going to be, like, the battle part. It's going to be tomorrow at the time of recording, so hopefully we get to do some fun stuff with that. But anyway, what are we talking about today? Well, the next set, the E-Series, like, it may not have made much of a historical impact in terms of the competitive side of the game, just because of the way Wizards of the Coast were handling stuff at the time. But in terms of actual history, the set introduces some very important mechanics that are still in play to this day. So we're going to be going over the introduction of the supporter card, as well as a delineation. This actually did get changed in Gen 5 again, but Pokemon powers have had a slight delineation to them, and the burn status condition also came in this set. So yeah, there's a little bit to talk about. So obviously, we have seen a lot about trainer cards as we have gone through. There's been a ton of this is busted because you could play all of them in a turn. Professor Oak was insane. Computer search was ridiculous. Dowsing Machine as item finder as it was at the time is obviously crazy as well. So a lot of those have rotated, but we still have some ridiculous stuff. Misty's Wrath is really big. We have things like even Time Capsule over here is pretty ridiculous, but it has a stipulation on it. And that stipulation is at the very bottom. You can't play any more trainer cards this turn. Neo Genesis did introduce 3 cards, so it's like the Poké, the Time Capsule, and most relevant is Professor Elm, where you cannot play trainer cards after you have played these ones. And the idea for that, I mentioned at the time, it's like prototype supporter cards, because you basically have to play these as the last major action of your turn, as far as going into your trainer card strategy goes, right? The trainer cards are where all of the draw is at the moment outside the Cleffa. We'll get to that eventually. It's where all of your search stuff goes, and a lot of your like recovery and even like switching outs and stuff, right? Double Gust wins games, and you can't play Double Gust if you draw it after an Elm. So that's kind of annoying. Obviously, this card is very, very powerful, so I wouldn't suggest that you would want a like lessening of this restriction. But what I will say is it kind of restricts design space a lot. If you can't play other trainer cards for the rest of the turn after you play your like draw card, it's going to lessen like the value of those draws, and also end up making it so that you basically just don't get to play the game on that turn. And if you're already behind, that's definitely not something that you want, right? You want to be able to draw cards and use those cards to make a comeback, because that's the only way you're going to. So these are pretty restrictive in terms of design space. And also, like, how do you determine what trainers are going to stop you from doing other stuff? Would energy removal fall under this category? It could do. Would Master Ball fall under this category? Probably not, but would like a similar search, like just search your Pokemon Trader, maybe, or anything like that? It's like, you could end up saying, well, these cards should have limits on them, and, well, that's what we've got here. Here is the supporter card. So anyone who has never played the original versions of these games probably won't really understand why this is such a big deal, but only being able to play one trainer of the class per turn is a very big limiter on your overall like firepower. Professor Oak is a good example of one that has been printed several times in later generations. Professor Juniper, obviously in Gen 5, Sycamore copied the effect for Gen 6. Professor's Research nowadays in Generation 8 is the same sort of thing. And you can't play multiples of that per turn. You can only play the one. And it lets you dig through the deck quite a bit, but it also makes it so that you can't just do that five times in the first turn if you can recover one of them, you know. Some of these cards might seem a little bit underpowered compared to what we've seen before. We did just get Bill back, so like just a straight up draw 2 might seem better than some of these. It's definitely better than this, that's for sure. But the idea is that you can print a bunch of really powerful effects here, really push the design space of the game itself with an inbuilt restriction so that you can't just spam these cards out. And that's something that the game missed at the beginning. If supporters were in from the very start, and Professor Oak, Computer Search, etc. were supporter cards, game was probably going to be a lot healthier. But it wasn't, so we had to deal with it. So what do these do? Well, they are still trainer cards. If Dark Vileplume wasn't rotating, Dark Vileplume would block supporter cards as well. This does change a little bit in history. I believe Gen 4 definitely changed it so that the separate like trainer, stadium, etc. they were different. Nowadays it is still trainer supporter, trainer item, trainer stadium, etc. and that's the model that these fulfill. You do not discard the supporter until the end of the turn. That is something which is different from Gen 5 onwards. Honestly, I like this system a lot better, but I can understand why you would want it discarded immediately, because you'd be able to recover it with, say, Versus Seeker or Power Pad, something like that. You can't do that with these ones. It's like plus power from Generation 1, right? And most of them draw cards, right? Bill here, you shuffle one card from your hand back into deck, draw 3 cards. Mary's Impulse is terrible, don't even consider this. But, I mean, if you flip heads, it's a Bill. If you flip 2 heads, it's a Bill's Teleporter. When Teleporter only needs 1. You know, you get what I mean. You can draw a lot of cards with this. It's never going to happen. And then we get to Professor Oak's Research. This would be really good if we didn't have the next card here. But shuffle draw 5. Like, it's weaker than Elm, because it's a shuffle draw 5 instead of 7, but Elm stops you playing the trainers that you drew there. If you shuffle draw 5 and draw into Double Gust, which is probably what you're going for game anyway, then you can use that Double Gust and you can go for game. It's great. However, in this particular format, Copycat is going to be a lot better, because if you think about it, most of the time we are looking to Eek and shuffle draw 7, right? That ends our turn because it's an attack. However, Copycat will then let you shuffle draw 7, same as a Professor Elm, but you can still play trainers that you draw, and you can also play an Elm if you happen to draw that as well. So, very, very powerful card. This is going to change the way that our games are played. But then we've also got a couple of other ones here too. Professor Elm's training method. Like, you may actually recognize this if you play the modern game, because it's evolution in sense. But this is a supporter version, not an item. So we can only play, you know, one of this or any of the other cards we have here. So search your deck for an evolution card. Evolutions are the name of the game right now. They are the power cards. So this is a fantastic thing to have around, just any evolution. We've had Boss's Way to search out the dark stuff. I've been using that with Crobat, rest in peace. But now we can use this for anything. It's fantastic. The other one that we have here you may also recognize as a future item card. Not in standard right now, thank goodness, but Max Potion is in Gen 5 and Gen 6. And, oops, accidentally marking the card because we can. Yeah, no, it's Max Potion. It's a one targeted Pokemon Center. And yes, we have Pokemon Center at the moment. That will be better for certain decks, but there are some times where you have damage on stuff and you really can't get the energy away from it. So you want to just be able to focus on one thing, right? There will be decks where Pokemon Nurse will actually come into play, and once Center rotates, this will still be a fantastic option. These are just the supported cards which are in the first set that we're getting, the Expedition, effectively E-Series base set. There are going to be supporters in every set going forward, and a lot of them are really, really good. So keep an eye out for them. We are going to be transitioning our draw engines to these as we go, and they are going to be awesome. Alright, step 2 is our Pokemon powers. We did see an update to the text in Legendary Collection, where we have this power can't be used if Pokemon is affected by a special condition. This also affects ones like the Muck up here as well, where it's like this stops working while it's affected by a special condition. Some Pokemon powers are active, like the Alakazam, and apparently the Charizard. We'll see why I get confused about this in a set, but apparently this is an active thing. If you play the Game Boy game, the Pokemon trading card game, then you never have to actually declare that you're using this. It just turns all your stuff to fire anyway. So, like, it's coded as a passive ability, even though it actually says it has to be activated, which is weird. So, you know, just a little tidbit, I guess. But we have like the active abilities here and the passive one in Muck, where it's just always on no matter what. And Pokemon decided, or at least I guess Wizards maybe decide, I don't know. Pokemon decided that they were going to delineate these into Poké Powers, which are active abilities, and Poké Bodies, which are passive abilities. So this is something, again, that Generation 5 just condensed into abilities, just to be a bit simpler. And if you've ever heard me addressing stuff as abilities, that's why. But yeah, for the next couple of generations, we have to use powers and bodies. And these are separate because Poké Bodies cannot be turned off by special conditions. You see, there's no text here that says, you know, this stops working if Golem is affected by a special condition. So it just always reduces damage done to it by 10. It's pretty cool when you think about it. That means that Tyranitar over here, which functionally has the same power as the base set Charizard, it just does it for Dark instead of Fire. It's never possible to turn it off. If you confuse or poison this thing, it can still hit you with Stamp. So kind of makes you wonder why the Charizard was worded weirdly, right? Doesn't matter. This Charizard actually does have like an active trait to it, because it works on all of your Pokemon, not just Charizard. So I wanted to sort of, initially I got these two out so I could say make a contrast on them, and then I read this again and it's like, it doesn't even work that way. Doesn't matter. Point is, you can't use this if you poison the Charizard, so make sure you have a second Charizard out, I guess. Alakazam is the same way. It's just like it has an ability that lets you copy one of the opponent's attacks, but you can't do that if it's afflicted with a special condition. So that will make stuff like Poison and the new Burn that we'll get into in a sec quite powerful in this era as well. Unfortunately, in their infinite wisdom, freaking Muck was reprinted in Legendary Collection and was ruled to work against both Poké Powers and Poké Bodies. So throughout the entirety of the E-Series, when this thing is legal, all three of those sets, we will have to potentially deal with Muck destroying our stuff. This card is really stupid, and I just... it bugs me that they've kept this in, but I don't know, maybe we'll be able to gust it out and stuff. But anyway, the last little bit to get into here is the Burn status condition, because that is new and is a little different from how it works nowadays. Sun and Moon actually changed the way that Burn works, so it's a lot closer at the moment to a Char counter, which is why I've got the Quilava out here. This is the only card in existence that ever puts a Char counter on one of your opponent's things. It's kind of weird, but functionally, a Char counter makes your opponent flip a coin after every turn. If tails, they put 2 damage counters on the Pokemon that had the Char counter on it. That Char counter stays on the Pokemon unless it evolves, so long as it stays in play. Evolution will get rid of all effects of stuff like that. But you get this on someone that can't evolve, and you're gonna wear it out eventually. Burn is very similar, except it's actually a full-on special condition at this point, so the functionality is the same. At the end of every turn, like in between turns, you flip a coin, and if tails, you take 20 damage on the Pokemon that's burned. However, as a special condition, it's very similar to Poison in the way of if you evolve, you get rid of it. If you bench it, you get rid of it. You can use full heal to get rid of it. However, whilst it is a little weaker than the char counter, it's also available on a lot more Pokemon. These are just a couple of examples. There's a couple more in the Expedition set, but even just as we go on, we're going to see a lot of fire Pokemon be able to burn the opponent. And yeah, it's a prevalent thing. Also, as a special condition, which char is not, keep that in mind, you are actually able to disable Poké Powers with your burn. So it does make a difference. Expect to see it a little bit. I don't know, depends if we ever play Fire. Fire is a hard type to play most of the time, but when it's good, it's really good. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you've enjoyed yourselves. We'll get to our Legendary Collection battles the weekend, and I will see you then.